We're picking on you because I know you have a win for the week. What was your big takeaway from Build Conference? You always start so quiet.
Okay, I'll go. Yeah, it was just, so this was my first Build conference and it was just completely eye-opening. One, it was, I mean, I'm still like energized and motivated and inspired just from being in a room with all these amazing humans who are doing such amazing things and being able to learn from them. And having our powerhouse ladies there and being able to, I mean, I've only really seen a lot of you guys on video. So to be able to see them in person and share tips and, hey, what's working? And, you know, that was amazing. So, and that just, I think, you know, strengthens the relationships and that's just, you know, powerhouse that I took away. But yeah, it was great.
It was phenomenal. Mariah, what was your big takeaway?
You know, piggybacking just on what Melissa said too, of just everybody getting together, that was amazing. Listening to Tony Robbins for 5 hours was life-changing. And since I've been home, I keep telling my husband, Eric, I'm like, so Tony said this, and he's like, oh my gosh, if I hear Tony's name one more time, but I'm like, no, seriously. And I'm like having my kids do these like breathing exercises. They're like, mom's never allowed to go away again because she's like coming back with all these tools of how we're going to, you know, do things in our house. So it was amazing. I loved it.
Okay, but the Tony Robbins thing was incredible. Like that end thing was incredible, right? Okay.
I signed up for UPW virtual event.
Yeah.
I am.
Okay.
Second year in a row. I did it last year. I was like, I am doing this again. So if I could go to Florida, I would, but I can't this year.
Okay. But I was like in actual tears at the end. Molly knows, so were you, because I was standing next to you. Nardino's not on here. But it was so good. And maybe we'll end. And Kim Borcherding is on here, and she knows because it is like some of that breath work, like feeling of like getting into your feelings a little bit, which I actually think women have an unfair advantage at. Sorry if you're a guy on here. In Florida is his Unleash the Power Within. It's like a Tony Robbins event. It was, I know a bunch of agents went last year together.
It's early November. I think it's in Fort Lauderdale, Katie. I mean, let's be clear. I wasn't in tears. I was sobbing. Let's face it, Amy. I was sobbing.
You were act like you weren't crying. And I'm like, that is bull crap. And there's a lot of guests here that I don't even want to call Molly out on her bull crap. I'm glad that you said you were like sobbing. We were both on the verge of like the snot-nosed sob. Like legitimately, and Molly and I are standing there like, what just happened?
I mean, my body was shaking. I mean, I think Amber was like, she's going to pass out. It was not, yeah, it was good. It was amazing. It was, I think I can single-handedly say it changed my life. I mean, I texted Amber and said, thank you for making me come to this in a vulnerable state, because I needed that and it hit me where it needed to. And I feel like it changed my life. So I'm very thankful that she forced me to be vulnerable in that with Tony Robbins.
Yeah, I will tell you, like Nardino can pull it out of you 1000%. And I was sitting like up front, literally by myself. And when it got towards the end, I'm like, I gotta go back with my people. And I literally like climbed to the back and I nestled in next to Molly, and it was so great. Anyways, a couple of housekeeping items really quickly. You're all gonna be excited about this because we are moving from Facebook to Slack. So if you're new to Powerhouse or you don't know what Powerhouse is, we brain share a ton, and it keeps getting lost in Facebook. Like all the good questions just keep getting buried. So everything is going to be moving to Slack. You'll still have access to the Trello board. So where we keep all our recorded meetings, like they'll all still be stacked up in Trello. But for like the great conversations that are happening inside Facebook Messenger and Facebook I mean, like people are dropping some of like the best gems in those Facebook Messenger groups. And I want to be able to hang on to those. So they're going to get filed in Slack so that you can literally search like listing presentations or investment strategies or whatever. And you can pull up those gems of like of chat or conversation. So I think it'll be so much easier. So as per usual, Elle is helping me roll that out. So look for the announcements inside the Facebook group in order to get like the invite to Slack and all of that. The last thing I will tell you is that for Rise Retreat, that is booking up and the room block is like expiring tomorrow. So if you haven't booked your room, book your room. I know there's some chatter in the Facebook group, like people looking for roommates and stuff like that. I'm happy to try and help facilitate on that. If you need help with that, just let me know. Okay, now let's bring Megan to the stage, Elle, because I'm super excited to interview Megan and talk through kind of her before and after eXp. So many things. I'm going to turn that dinging off for you. So many things in business. It's like we talk about moving brokerages, and there is some pain points with moving moving firms. And a lot of times when people are looking at eXp, it's like one of those things like you can't know it until you're in it. And so these interviews are to kind of give a snapshot of a lot of different businesses. Megan's business is very different than mine, very successful. There's more than one way to skin a cat. So Megan, tell everyone just a little bit about you, and then let's jump into like what your business looks like and what you saw at eXp.
Yeah, so thanks, Amy, for letting me join you today. I'm excited. A little bit about me and my past is I'm like second generation real estate agent. I've always been in it. My mom was licensed in a broker before I was born and helped run a family-owned brokerage here in our local area for my entire life. And they are always investors as well. They built a rental portfolio. We probably moved 9 times before I graduated high school, not because my mom saw another pretty house, but because she saw an investment opportunity, and we moved in it for 2 years, fixed it up, and then we moved back to what I called the farm, which was like 40 acres. And we'd always move back there, and then they would sell it because you don't have to pay Uncle Sam. So that was like, I'm born and just immersed in investment world. So that's like my past. And I got my license in 2015. I said I would never be in real estate because I saw my mom and she just worked like a rat will, the older generation real estate agent. That's my mom to a T. So I always was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to be on my phone a million times all the time.
As I say, that was back in the era. I'm going to age myself just a little bit. You're not this old, Megan, but that was like when literally the only people that had a cell phone were real estate agents. Like, don't you remember like car phones? Like
we had a bag phone and no one else had bag phones. So my first phone when I started driving was my mom's old bag phone, and it was only for emergencies. So yes, I got my license in 2015 though, because like switch happened and we saw my mom trying to grow and how much her business had grown even in the past like 2 years when me and my sister finally started paying attention, and we're like, Mom, we can totally do this. The current broker is not letting you grow how you want. So we convinced my mom in 2015 for her to open up her own brokerage with me and my sister all doing it together. So that was when I got licensed in 2015. And I was like, Mom, this is going to be great. And then I convinced my now husband at the time to buy a house, a new construction house, because I was newly licensed. And I was like, this is a great purchase. And then after 3 months of buying that house and a year and a half into my real estate career, I was like, just kidding, Mom, I'm going back to Grand Cayman. Bye. So I left. So I remember listening to some of Amy's things and saying like that gap. And sometimes you don't want to talk about the gap and say like, oh, that discredits me because I took this gap of 3 years, but I wouldn't be in my business and where I am now without that. And yeah, so we lived in the Caribbean for 3 years and we helped open a luxury resort. So that's like a lot of my background.
Of course you did. Of course you did. Of course you did.
So that's why we left and went to the Caribbean, because I was like, yeah, I'll help open this. It was only supposed to be 6 months, and 6 months turned into 3.5 years in the Caribbean. But all of that experience of creating standards of procedures, creating email templates, and creating all of these templates and lists for these guests, and literally everything about the island and things to do, and the level of service that I was doing it at really helped me launch the business that we now have. because I feel like there's a big difference in Megan 2015, just licensed, and the business that I now have. And that gap is a huge part of that.
Yes. So tell me a little bit about what does your business look like right now? Transactions, investment arm, and like national team arm. You've got a lot going on.
Yes. So it has been really built in the past 3 years. We have a local team of 9 people on our local CRET team, but I guess our organization is at 12. So we have some other people that are in our community, but not in our local team. And we have built a rental portfolio of 20 doors in 3 years. And we flipped like 11 houses in a year, the first year and a half. We haven't flipped a house since last
In
March.
case you're wondering, those numbers are insane. Like to just casually say that you've bought 20 doors in 3 years.
Yeah, I did. Our first year back from Grand Cayman, we did 35 real estate transactions and flipped 9 houses, and we bought 4 rental doors. So we've been piecing it all together. 2021 last year, we did 50 transactions and we were up to like 9 rental doors. And then this year we've already done 50 transactions as like our team. And we bought 13 doors this spring. So that brings us to 20. And we've stopped flipping homes for now because we had other wheels in the wheelhouse going.
Yeah. I love that. I remember you taught at Rise Retreat in Nashville. And one of the things that stuck with me that you said is like, oh, anytime there's an extra $10,000, my husband knows I'm buying an investment property. And I kind of giggled to myself because I was like, yeah, I can see that. Absolutely. Right. And so I think that's part of it. That's been an indication of your success of saying like, oh, knowing how to get that investment property for like 10 grand. Can you speak to that just a little bit?
Yeah, so there's all different types of ways that we've purchased houses. Some of them have been owner financing options where we literally just made it whatever that owner was. For one, we were just like, okay, cool, here's your rent that you would collect in this year. And that was our down payment. And then one, we were able to pick up for cash for pretty cheap. And we had that cash, but it was a property that we bought it probably a fifth of its original value because somebody was just desperate to get rid of it. And then we used that to basically refinance, pull money out to buy another property. And we bought a duplex and we only came out of pocket $5,000. So in investing, I say it all the time to my husband, I just look at the board like Monopoly money and I see where I can move it around, not coming out of my pocket. So
I can literally see it like Molly's little picture is like right above your head on my screen. And I can see Molly up there like giggling, like, yeah, girl. Because you both have like a very similar investing strategy. And this idea of it's like monopoly money and just moving it around and like learning how to devalue money, right? And using it as a tax shelter. Phenomenal. So we started talking. How did you find me, number one?
I don't know the exact pinpoint thing now. I was following you on social media, following like your community you were building, because I was also trying to build a community because it was lonely. Yeah. I want to say what connected all the pieces was Modern Agent Social Club. So
I was never in Modern Agent Social Club.
There was something that I don't know if Chelsea used you as an example, or if you just, or I don't know what exactly it was, or if, yeah, I don't, but wow. I think there was just a lot of people following you and your stuff was shared. And then I was then dug in deeper and then, yeah.
Yeah. And I think, so tell me, how long have you been at eXp now?
October 1st, my birthday will be 1 year.
Oh, seriously? It's only been 1 year, but we started talking probably 6 months, 9 months prior to you moving.
We started talking in May, I believe, because my cap was going to be coming up and I was wanting to make the move when my cap was up and make that transition. And I thought I had fully prepared my mom. We had the full conversations for everybody. Like I said, like I convinced my mom to open up her own brokerage. Well, at that time when we switched, I was fully running the sales department side and she was just doing property management, and anything that she got, she would give to me because she didn't want to sell anyone. So I thought I'd fully prepared my mom and pitched her on all the benefits of everything for our agents that we were quickly growing. And then I went to do the application to move, and it was an explosion. There were tears.
Yeah.
I thought my mom was never going to talk to me again. Of course we talk, but it was hard. And so I put it on pause and I said, nope, I'm not going to do that. And it took me about 6 months to realize that this was the right decision for me and all of my agents.
Yeah. Actually, I don't love that it was like difficult, but I appreciate you sharing that it's difficult. I think so often when we are on Instagram, we only see a highlight reel of people's businesses, lives, and like what have you. And behind the scenes, when you're running a business, it's actually a lot of difficult decisions. And you having to like be the person that makes the decision when people don't always understand why, right? And you
Yeah.
and I talked for a long time. So tell me a little bit, like, what did you see at eXp that made you willing to make that decision? I mean, because
So-
the benefit has to be bigger
Yeah.
than the pain point, right? Like it has to outweigh the hassle of moving.
Yeah, so we were like quickly and organically just growing agents. I've always said, if it was just for me and Todd, we would stay here. Why would I ever go anywhere else? We're fine. Obviously, we're crushing our own goals, but I quickly started growing and like building this community locally of all these agents who wanted to do the same thing as me and Todd. And I quickly realized I needed like more back end support. And I was like, I can't pay for all of them to have their own site. I will be honest, the KV Core, every agent getting their KV Core site was a huge win for me because I was paying $1,500 a month for Chime. And I could not afford to pay that for every single agent that was coming into this boutique small brokerage, right? So that, and then the trainings and everything else, I was only really looking at it for my agents and to help them grow. And then I was like, oh, Amy's already doing this to all of these other people. She can help me be a better leader to them. But it was only about it wasn't even Rise. I hadn't even realized the full potential at Rise. I think it was like 3 months ago when it hit me that this is good for my business. Like I could actually grow my business and for me to get to the next level, not just for me to be a good, better mentor for my agents.
I actually love that because this is a pattern that I see a lot with female business owners. And it is this idea of like being the sacrificial lamb, of saying like, oh, I'm willing to sacrifice this thing over here, which is this brokerage that you've built with your mom and your sisters. And like, that's personal. Like that's a big deal. But I see a lot of women willing to like do this so that because they can see that it's better for their agents over there. And this is something that actually ends up making, I always say that females have an unfair advantage. And it's that nurturing. This is why they tend to be really good to their clients too, because they will almost always do what is in the best interest of their client, regardless of if it's in their best interest or not. And that actually is the sign of a great leader. Being able to like lead well means you lead like with their best interest at the crux of every single decision you make. Right. And that carries over in transactions and it carries over when we talk about agent growth inside of your business. So in what ways has eXp, I want to know what your aha moment was where you realized it was also good for you. Because I always knew that. And like, shame on me for not helping you realize that sooner. Like what was that aha moment?
No, I think you had already been saying it. And I think I was saying it. I mean, I remember being on the phone with you and because we had like missed a time. And so it wasn't a Zoom and we were on the call and I was like in Flat Rock Park with my dogs or something. And I remember saying like all the right things. And I remember saying, oh, this is going to help me because I'm already doing X, Y, Z and blah, 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 blah. But I just didn't really believe it. And I was just saying it. And I think, I don't know if Bailey is on this call. I don't I don't know, but really it was, I think, Bailey getting to the level that I was and seeing how she could help somebody else grow. And then I was helping her help other people grow. And I was like, oh, and I don't know. I think that was the switch for me in my brain. And I was just like, oh, wow. Like now I'm helping other people do what I'm wanting to do. And not, it was like a different level, I guess. Not just me helping other people be good agents, but truly being able to build something better and like build a legacy for her to leave and for her to build out. And that was, it gives me goosebumps. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm able to do this.
Yeah. Well, and let's tell the story of Bailey, because Bailey's story is phenomenal. And let's also let everyone in on like, what is your thing that you're building? Like you talk about Fire Table, and you have like very specific goals, and they're a little bit different than the quote unquote average agent, right? Like you're not out like, oh, I'm going to do 500 million in production and win that trophy. Yes, that's great. But what is actually, tell me a little bit about Fire Table.
Yeah, so Fire Table was born, again, another realization, and I didn't have the name at first, and I thought all of these agents were just attracted to me because I thought I knew social media, and obviously that's how a lot of them found me. Bailey found me through social media, and I was like, I could teach you this. Yeah, I could teach you how to be a successful real estate agent. And the more that I dove into helping them with their goals, they just wanted to be like me and Todd and build actual wealth beyond the commission check and build out investments. And like Mike, who was one of my first agents, he now has 4 rental properties and is building out his Airbnb, which is huge. And then, so that's where Fire Table was born. It is financially independent, retire early. So we take all of our goals and we really plug it in. Like, of course, we're focused on being excellent real estate agents. Obviously, we want to have a high level of service. Everybody who is on my CRET team knows that I have high standards of service. And so, but we're taking all of their bigger picture goals, like the life worth living goals, and breaking it down and saying, cool, how can you build out this passive income that's going to get you to this? Because I don't know about you, but in 10 years, I don't want to still be hustling and doing 50 transactions a year or 100 transactions a year. I don't want that. And none of my agents do either. So it's already implementing that backup plan that is the ultimate reason why you're striving to get these commission checks in the first place. And like, so yeah, Bailey is completely different. She was my first agent who was like, yeah, I'm only here for 2 years and then I'm moving back home to Oklahoma. And she's actually a big piece of my moving over to eXp story as well, because I was like, well, shoot, I'm going to spend 2 years training her, which I'm going to love doing. But then I'm just going to be like, I wish you the best, Bailey, bye. You know, if I was like with my small brokerage, that's all I could do. And so Bailey was a flipping point of me actually really looking into eXp in the first place. But it's been cool to help build her business and build her game plans in a way that makes her movable, right? So she is about to, she caps this week. I don't know. I keep looking for her.
Well, but Bailey's a veteran, right? And so that's part of why she's like moving in 2 years. And so when we talk about this idea of being movable, that is actually a newer idea inside of real estate. Like if you build a real estate business, it's almost like you are locked and loaded into that location, because to move, you're like, well, I got to go build a whole new sphere. I've got to go farm a whole new neighborhood. I don't know anyone there. Who's going to buy real estate from me? Blah, 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 blah. So this idea of being movable, and one of the ways eXp solves that is you can hold dual licenses. So I keep picking on Molly because she's literally her pitch. This is always what happens. If your picture's right by me, I'm picking on you. But Molly's dual licensed, right? So she holds a license in Kentucky and she holds a license in Florida and is paying 1 cap. Well, that solves a huge problem for a lot of these agents like Bailey, who's a veteran, who's like, well, I'm going to be here for 2 years. I'd love to pursue real estate. But you can see how under like the traditional umbrella of real estate, that's not very exciting. Like who wants to build this great business and then abandon it in 2 years? And eXp really remedies a lot of that.
Yeah, and Bailey, so she is a veteran, and we built a lot of her business off of referrals. Over the summer, I think she had like 9 referrals that she did 2 Zoom calls with a client, with an agent, did an email, set them on their way, right? And she touches base throughout it. But she's about to cap this week at a closing, and now she's moving to Oklahoma at 100% capped. Plus, she's already started her community of veteran run business that is helping take veterans and show them a way to build a life worth living through real estate. And so that is what gives me like goosebumps, because now she's building her own vision and building out her own goals and helping other people do the same thing that she's doing.
Yeah. And I love, like, so she's got this niche, and we're going to start, like, we're noticing patterns, right? So my niche is like the female solo agent, moms in real estate. I love that little niche, right? And Megan's niche is like people like the 5-year table niche of like financially independent, retire early, people that want to take their real estate transaction and also become an investor as well, right? They want to use their license for both of those things. And so that's Megan's niche, right? And then we see Bailey's niche, where she's really niched into that veteran community and teaching them how to like create that financial independence, because they have fascinating, and we talked about this inside of Powerhouse, their finance, like their housing budgets, really, like, we talk about monopoly money. They have some fun monopoly money to play with inside of real estate. And that's been phenomenal to watch Bailey build. So tell me, what has been like, when you move over to eXp, you have a lot of options of like choosing a sponsor, right? Tell me a little bit about, so I'm Megan's sponsor, so she's inside of Powerhouse. What made you choose Powerhouse specifically inside of eXp?
So I saw you, and I didn't even know who GoGo was until we were on that phone call when I was in the park, and you were like, go check GoGo out. And so then I went and found GoGo as well. But I saw you already building how I was already naturally building. You were doing the same things. And I realized, like, yes, I was advertising only to my clients in that way, but I was still, you were building the same direction I wanted to go. And no one else here in my local market was. And so that was a huge thing of aligning with you for that. And you were already saying the same things I was saying to my team. Like, I remember it was a cool experience at Rise, because we do say a lot of the same things. And when I helped build out my team's branding and their social media aspects of it, and like being them on social media, it took till Rise retreat, I'm going to pick on Bailey again, for some of those same things that I always say, for her to hear it from you a slightly different way, for her to get it and click. So aligning myself with somebody who's saying the same things that I am, to help me with my agents and already is headed in the same direction and where I'm wanting to go. That was why I aligned myself with you specifically in Powerhouse.
No, I love that, because I think a lot of times, and this is like not an abnormal thing, is we have to hear something like 7 to 10 times before it sinks in, and from like different sources, right? So even like Mariah saying like, oh, I've done Unleash the Power Within. Is that what it's called? Anyways, Tony Robbins before, but I'm going back again, right? Because you need to hear it again, because the Mariah that went to it last year, well, the Mariah of 2021 is different than the Mariah of 2022, because there's growth that's happened there. So you like pull in different things. Like, have you ever read a book like, and then you reread it 2 years later and you're like, oh, this feels like a completely different book.
Yeah, your mind grows, and it's not going to comprehend some things until it grows to that next level.
Totally. And so I think that's been a huge asset to me as well, is just sitting in the room with people that are building similar to me. But also we all have our own niche and we all kind of have our own recipes, but being able to like learn from them and hear them say something similar to what I'm thinking, but in a different like verbiage, that it makes it sometimes just click differently. That's been a huge asset to me as well. So tell me a little bit, like, what do you see moving forward? Like, what opportunities do you see on the horizon now that you know eXp is also a good fit for you and not just your agents?
Yeah, I think something that is a more recent realization is diving into more of our uplines, because I know that I joined because of Powerhouse, and I've like dug deep into this, and I didn't really pay attention to anything else, but there's so much value. And I didn't even know like Mark Z and GoGo did like syndications, right? So that's like something that was on mine and Todd's radar. And I'm like, whoa. So that's when I was like starting to click all the pieces, that this community is so much more than what I originally just thought it was.
Okay, tell everyone what a syndication is. If you don't know what a syndication is, give them a quick rundown on what a syndication is.
In the easiest terms, if you're not an investor, it's you buying a huge property like, we want to get something that's like 20 doors all in one thing, and you're using somebody else's money to do that. That's the easiest way to say that.
Yeah, so it's like, it would almost be like, instead of you buying the whole thing yourself, it's like 20 of you all going in together, and you all put in like a certain portion of the money, and then you own like a percentage of that.
There's a big, deep structure, like you do create an LLC, and you have, so it is a big, deep dive. But if you're not super deep in investings, it is pooling money together to be able to buy larger assets that you could buy on your own.
Yeah, then you could buy on your own, 100%. So tell me a little bit about I want to know more about like your fire table and how you structure that. Like, if there's an agent that's like, yeah, I want to know more about that, and I want to work with Megan more like closely, what does that look like?
So fire table, we have been having regular monthly meetings. This past month, we did 2 additional Zoom trainings, and we're slowly creeping into where I can get up to like weekly trainings in fire table via Zoom, and just like diving into little incremental steps. Pretty much every single person that joins our community, though, we have like a goal session and diving deep and like laying out, okay, cool, here's the tiny action step that you can get to. Like Tyler, when she first came to me, we sat down, I think it was May, we sat down and built out her 6-month goal plan, and she wanted to buy 1 property. And now she has 3 rental properties, and she crushed all of her financial goals of transactions and making commissions in June for like the whole 6-month goal. So when you lay out all of those little bitty steps, and that's like what we do in fire table, right? So that's laying out all the tiny action steps to get you to those bigger goals. And once you see it and you're like, oh, that's all I have to do. Well, that's easy enough. I can do that in half the time, versus when it's like all up here in your head and you're just like, oh my gosh, that's so much to do. Like, how do I get all those properties, and how do I like get the commission checks to then buy it? But then once you write it down, it becomes so simple. And so that's like what our fire table community is. And every month we're talking about different ways and strategies to be able to help you get to those goals.
Well, and I think that's phenomenal. I think that pairs really nicely with what's going on in Powerhouse, where we talk a lot about doing the transactions. And I always say, like, there's like a stack, like get to the stack, like stacking up your talents and your revenue streams, and that gets you to the exit, right? Where you get to work if you want to, right? And we're all going to end up keep working because we all love it. But like working in the space that you like. One of the things that I think is interesting though, is where you say like, okay, we're going to do this many transactions to create this excess amount of funds that you need. And we're going to take that excess, or that extra, so to speak, and buy investment properties. And I think there's like a lot of power in doing that, because let's be honest, there, like, not every aspect of real estate is fun. There's a lot of stuff. There's like a lot of days of doing what you don't want to do in order to get where you want to go. Right. And I think when you structure it that way of saying like, okay, well, if you do X amount of transactions, then you'll have X extra, and we're going to take this and then buy these investment properties. And here's the math. Okay, this becomes like circular, where that really motivates you to go get those transactions and do those transactions.
Well, and tying that to your original why. So if your why is so that way you can be the mom driving all the kids around to soccer or to softball or whatever that is, or like if whatever your why is, building that life worth living, that's why you're building those passive incomes in the first place. So that fuels you in the first place to go get those commission checks. But then that adds extra fuel, because you know, in like, you're going to work hard for this amount of years, you're going to get to this level. And then that's when you get to like, take it easy a little bit more. Will you? I don't know. Like I don't know if you will take it easy or go to the next level. I don't know.
To be determined. And so
Yeah.
Fire Table is for your agents that join with you inside eXp. Megan teaches inside of Powerhouse. She's in our Trello boards. If you want to know more about her exact strategies, she taught inside of Powerhouse a couple months ago. She took the stage at Rise Retreat. And so she teaches inside of Powerhouse as kind of her offering to us. But if you want full access to Megan and her Fire Table, the best way to do that is to have her be your sponsor at eXp. But also, we all get a little bit of access to her too inside Powerhouse. And then, which is going to lead me to my next question for you. are you going to package this up and put it into a course so that people who are already at eXp, or like you can't be their sponsor at eXp because, for whatever reason. Okay, if you want a course out of Megan, would you just drop a yes in the chat box? I have no idea what the answer to this question is, so I'm totally putting Megan on the spot. Okay, so Megan, there's only like a dozen yeses in that chat box, but are you gonna like package this up into a course or do like a paid mastermind?
Yes, so I have excellent
Right
news.
here.
So my course is actually launching in October. October is my special month because that is my birthday month.
And your
So
content.
yeah, so October is going to be launching my course. I do want to give like 10 seats that are kind of like complimentary to our powerhouse, because I want you to help me. So I want you to like be able to take it, and I want you to be able to like say this was helpful, or maybe reword something differently, or in the homework if that was helpful. So I would love all of your yeses, and then you can kind of get a soft like preview of my course if
Okay,
you want.
let's unpack this launch strategy right now. This is actually what we do inside of Powerhouse, where we like build together and we ping pong ideas. I actually had no idea that Megan had a course. So I love this. Okay, so she's saying this is what I would do if I were you, Megan. You can take it with a grain of salt. But I love the idea of having like a soft launch where you have like a beta group go through the course and offer it at like a steep discount and say, great, you come into the course, take the course, give me feedback on the course. But then also, because you opted in at like a steep discount, then the requirement is that when you do your big launch, they are all like your, what's the word I'm looking for, ambassadors, to help you sell the course of like, hey, this is a great course I took. Here's the link, so that they're sharing it on social. Like maybe you have like, I don't know what your launch like window is. Is it 7 days? Is it 10 days? Is it whatever? But they all are like scheduled on a day so that you can like then share their content on social media of like, okay, Melissa is sharing about it, and you're able to share her story on your story. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're in the room and you would be willing to do that, we're just gut checking this in real time. So Megan, thanks for letting me put you on the spot. Welcome to Powerhouse. This is what we do. Drop another yes in the chat box if that's something that you would be willing to do for Megan. See, I love this. Okay, well, there you go, Megan. There's your people. So, okay, that's amazing. I think you have so much talent inside of you and so much information that would be so helpful to agents to really like you said, watching your mom. And I think it's hard, like generationally, and maybe, I don't know if you struggle with this or not. Again, I'm asking blind questions. I don't ever prep these. I don't ever prep Megan or
No prep. I was like, do I need a presentation?
No, sorry. Well, no, but because I feel like this is really what happens inside our Powerhouse meetings. And this is genuinely what we do, is we just kind of vet ideas and iterate on ideas and ping pong them back and forth, because that's where you find the great stuff. But I think for you, especially, like you saw your mom build in real estate, and generationally, I think it was different for our moms. Like working outside of the home or building a business was so fundamentally different, just because like now we've got this, right, where we can work from anywhere. And that wasn't the case for your mom. You could not build as efficiently as we can now. And so does that influence like how you build? And is that influence your why of like making sure you have an exit strategy?
Definitely. 100%. I mean, I said it earlier, like my mom's always running, like it's almost like a rat race. Yes, they have tons of investments. They're always going to the next level too. That's where I get it from, I guess. But it is still like my mom, they were intentional with their goals, sort of ish, but it was always like she was very busy and not a whole lot of productive. So I think that's a huge part of like, we just got into that this past like couple months of maintaining, and I felt like a squirrel. And literally yesterday, Todd and I restructured everything because we had already hit all of our goals. So we were just kind of like, or I say that way.
It's August and you've already hit all your goals. Wham, Megan.
But it was, I mean, it is like when I get to like feeling like I'm just like so busy throughout the day and I'm not being productive in what I want to, like I have to stop and I have to write everything down and I have to like regroup and restructure, because like that's my biggest fear is like working like my mom did. So that is like a huge reason in like my structure and the way I break it all down and the way I'm like super hyper, I call it like hyper focused on my goals. And I'm like, yep, that's why I'm doing that. So that way it keeps me from being like very, very busy, but not productive.
Well, and you also have to think like, one of the things I feel like so much empathy towards like our mom's generation is like, you have to remember, like the internet didn't exist. Like the amount of information we have access to is phenomenal. And so unless you had those relationships, like actually in real life, like in your little Rolodex, you are reading books and just kind of implementing, right? Because it's not like you could Google, hey, how do I like buy invest? I mean, there's so much you can pull just from Google. Having this inside of Powerhouse and eXp has just been like mind blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Kim wants to know like how, like into the nitty gritty a little bit of like, how do you stay organized?
So I like to write things down. Like, yes, I have a Google Calendar. Yes, I have like Trello, and Tyler switched all of our transaction backend stuff to Asana. Like we have all those systems and tools, but for me daily, this has been the best thing for how my brain works, because in real estate, I was putting everything in my Google Calendar, including my tasks. And so I'd be like, at 9 a.m., I have to do XYZ. And then it would not be 9 a.m. and it would be 1 p.m. and I just felt defeated already. So this is like the Brainy Broker Planner. And like literally it's got water on it because I literally take it everywhere. This goes to every coffee conversation, every appointment that I have. This is what I take notes in, because there's a whole note section on this side. It matches the day. And if you notice, there's nothing in the times, because the times part is on my Google Calendar. This is only for face-to-face appointments. And then I put all of my tasks here and I put my priorities here. So it's called the Brainy Broker Planner. Another Modern Agent Social Club find from that community. So this is it's called Brainy Broker Planner. And I know Amy has her Rise one, which is also very similar in being able to structure it, but this goes every single day and it's only for the quarter. So I have 4 of these throughout the year. I'm about to have to get a new one. It has a ton of like goal tracking stuff that you can keep up with in the front and your leads and everything. But I find even just for me, the day-to-day, how I can organize myself in my tasks is important. Yeah.
It's huge. It's huge. I love it. And I love what Jen Denny said in the chat. We are the first generation of moms or women that can legit have full career, like working from home. Like the overlap. And so I often say too, is it like, do you ever feel like you're just like swimming in uncharted territories?
Well, yeah, that's why I followed you, because literally I felt like I had capped and I had a ceiling in my local market. So yeah, 100% jumped into total uncharted territory, especially jumping into eXp, because our local market, there was maybe 7 people in our local market that were eXp, and they were probably from Atlanta and they weren't very high producing agents. So nobody had a good picture or image of what eXp was. So that was definitely
yeah, there's actually a lot of Powerhouse agents that have told me something similar, where it's like, oh, like, yeah, there's some in our market, but you know, and it's one of those things where too, I always say like, you know, there's always like the used car salesman in every brokerage. Like, so just don't be that. Right. And we inside of Powerhouse, I don't think there's anyone that's like that, which is what's so fun about it.
Yes, that's it. Sorry. It used to be called the Brainy Broker, and I forgot it does say Broker's Best now on the front, and I just forgot. It used to be called Brainy Broker. She rebranded, but that's it.
I actually like that she rebranded, because I didn't really like the name Brainy Broker. I just wasn't gonna say that.
That's what it was. So I did a whole year last year with these, like they're stacked right over there. And like that, my whole year last year, I used this in every quarter this year. I've had it. So I definitely think that's a great way to structure your goals and to like rewrite them down every single day, because the mundane I find, so what gets you burnt out is all the boring stuff that we have to do. Like, you have to prospect, you have to make sure your listing is good, you have to follow up with people. That's the not fun things of real estate, right? But you have to do those things in order to be successful and to get to your ultimate why you're doing it in the first place. So writing down your goals, and even if you have to say, like, there's a reminder box, even if you have to put like your why every single day, your reminder of why you're doing all these mundane tasks, that
Yes.
it's just easier.
Yeah. What advice would you give to an agent that is looking at eXp and is like nervous to make the switch? Like, what advice would you give to them?
Trust your gut. Like, if you can see the potential and the opportunity for you to grow and for your business to thrive and for you to get to that next level, I feel like so many people I talk to, they're like, yeah, my ceiling, I'm at my ceiling. I've just like plateaued. And if you even see an inkling of the opportunity for you and your business to thrive over here, I promise you that's the right choice, and just trust your gut. And like, do I wish I would have made the like transition like 6 months earlier? Yes, I do. Like, that would be my biggest piece of advice.
Yeah. Well, I think everyone feels that way. You know what I mean? I like Holly says, don't listen to the noise.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
So what do you see? Like, you've been at eXp for like a year, right? And there's been insane growth. How many people are in your total organization?
12. I think
12 people in your organization, which means one a month, which is a really fast pace. And then how has like your transaction arm grown? I think a lot of people have the misnomer of like, oh, if I move to eXp, then I'm just only in the agent business and then I have to like forego my transaction business. Was that your perspective prior to moving to eXp?
No, we had a goal of to still maintain. So last year we did 50 real estate transactions, and we said, okay, cool. We know that we're making this move for our agents and our team. And so we wanted to focus on their growth, and we just wanted to maintain that. But it's actually grown as well. So our local team, CRET, has grown, and we do take a percentage of our local team, not Fire Table, but we're already at 50 transactions for the year. So like, and I didn't track that, but for somehow and some reason, I guess I wasn't counting some of the referrals that have come in or something, but in transaction in the eXp enterprise, it was like, yep, I think it's over. It was like 49 2 months ago. So I haven't re-looked at it, but yeah.
So then tell me, like, what has been like your biggest surprise at eXp? Some like an opportunity that you didn't realize was there when you made the move. I found a lot of opportunities. I'm like, oh, didn't know about that. Didn't know about that. Like, didn't quantify that.
I didn't fully understand Icon. And I didn't really care about Icon. I was like, oh, okay, cool. The cap is the same. And now that our cap is reset, because we came in under, because we took 6 months to come over and our cap had reset. So yeah, we came over, our cap was already met, and I didn't really pay attention to all those rules, but now we're about to cap in 2 weeks because our cap reset in July. So we're about to cap. And so now I'm like, oh, what's this the Icon again? And so that has been really cool. And realizing the stock stuff was something I didn't pay attention to the upfront part, but also the rev share, because yes, you talk about it. Yes, you think that you understand it, but really until you start getting into it and you start mentoring other agents and you start building that arm out, and then you get your first check that's actually over $1,000 and you're like, huh, that's different. And like, I think Bailey had her first month like that in June. I think she got a check and she's like, Megan, it's $900. And like, I know she won't care if I share, but she only has 2 agents that are in her home front community, 2 agents, and she got her rev share check for almost $1,000 already. So I think seeing that and seeing that, I thought I was taking a loss on the back end broker side for when I made the switch, and then realizing, oh, like that I didn't really lose anything. Like, and now
you actually have so much to gain.
Yes. Yeah.
What I think is cool too is because it's like becomes like, well, just like the more people you help, like when we talk about people talking on the rev share side, we were talking about agents, right? And it's like the more agents you help build the business that they want, which is usually a business similar to yours, the more profitable it becomes. And that is what's fun. Like that's the fun part, is seeing other people like take your systems and like make them better.
Yeah. It's been really exciting. And like I said, it wasn't something that I was thinking about on the front end. So to have, that was like another one of those realization wheels. And so to be able to have like the rest of my team and the rest of our organization, like being able to share on those same wins and being able to, they're picking up that as well, right? So there's a ton of our agents who are already expanding and like growing that arm as well, and they're new agents, you know?
Yeah. Okay, so questions. If a team of 2 agents move to eXp, do they each have their own cap or do they split it? So great question, Julie. They can come under one cap as like a domestic team. If they want to separate and they both want to build out rev share, like if they're both going to be builders, it might make sense for them to separate. But that's something worth them like doing like a little bit of deep dive on the data to make the decision that's best for them. Actually, if a team of 2 agents, are they married? You have to be married to do a domestic team. So it depends on if they're married or not. Does eXp allow you to list your own flips? Megan,
We have not flipped any since March of last year, and that was before we came over, just because our transactions and our team and all different arms picked up and we had more buying power. We were flipping to roll our money to be able to have more buying power in the earlier years. So we actually have not flipped one, but maybe we are getting there. I don't see why they wouldn't.
Aaron, where are you located? What state are you in? I'm like, we can ask your broker.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think it depends on
I don't know if it's state specific or California. Katie says you get 3 personal deals a year, I believe. Yes. Yeah, so you should be fine on that, Aaron. But Deborah Penny is the broker in California.
I mean, we're about to list one of our own houses. We're actually selling our first house that Todd and I ever bought. So that great new construction house that I convinced Todd to buy when he was just my boyfriend, we're selling that now and we're about to list it next week. So I don't know what the difference would be.
Yeah, I don't know what the difference would be either, as long as you have. L, I believe you can list it, but can't double end it. That sounds right to me too. L's in California.
And that might be a state thing as well, because I know we double end stuff here in Georgia a lot. So that might be a state to state.
Well, they'll let you double end, but they don't want you to double end on your own property.
Gotcha.
That makes sense, because there is a lot of liability issues there. You know?
Okay.
Represent a buyer that's a personal deal. Yeah, that's what it is. Okay, there's the pattern. I'm like, I knew there's a caveat there, and the buyer has to get an inspection 100%. Could you just always make sure your buyers get inspections?
Yeah. I was gonna say we do inspections.
And Jenny buying your own house and you are taking the risk. I think she's like, right? It's like, unless you're the agent buying your own house and you decide to forego, please make sure all your buyers get inspections so that you can sleep easy at night. By the way, I love seeing all of you. Let's see, Jennifer and Jancy both have babies over their shoulders, and that makes me so happy because I remember doing so much of this with a baby on my hip. So kudos to both of you. Any more questions for Megan before we jump off? If you have been considering eXp and you have questions, the best thing to do is to ask the person that invited you. Within Powerhouse, we do have this spirit of collaboration. And so Megan is one of our elite agents, and so she pours into Powerhouse and she teaches and trains inside of Powerhouse. But you want to ask the agent that invited you to this meeting, because they also have phenomenal skill sets. And if you're looking at eXp, the person that invited you is the person that should be your sponsor. You'll get to rub shoulders with all of us in a variety of ways. If you have any other questions, drop them in the chat. Otherwise, Megan, thank you, number one, so much for coming and like sharing your story and sharing like the highs and the lows of it. I think it's so important that we highlight both the highs and the lows, because moving brokerages is a huge decision and it will create some like emotional upheaval in your business. It's kind of like moving to your dream house. Yes, I want to get to my dream house. Okay, you also need to pack all the boxes of your current house, and it's going to cause some upheaval. That's normal. We would love to have you inside of Powerhouse. It's been literally the surprise of my life. I had no idea. I thought like, oh, I'm going to move to eXp and maybe I can build this collaborative thing, because I struggled like Megan did. I was lonely. I didn't want to be on like a local team, and I didn't know where to go to find other people that were building like me. And I thought that was a novel idea. And then I got to eXp and I realized, oh, a lot of people are building that way. And like the collaboration aspect has like actually really blown my mind. But I will tell you, Powerhouse is special. There's something about it where there's just so many good agents that are so helpful. That's why we're moving everything to Slack, because there's so much knowledge sharing happening, that if you're looking to go to the next level, we would love to help you get there. Megan, thank you so much.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you,
We'll see
everybody.
y'all next week. Bye.